Matt Rule and the Nebraska Cornhuskers are swinging real big this offseason. This could be the start of our changed perception of Husker football going forward.
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
It's funny how this thing really started at the beginning of the offseason, right after the 7th loss of the season, when Nebraska found out that they would not be playing in a bowl game. Matt Rule stands up at the podium at Memorial Stadium and he says, transfer portal quarterback, you're going to be expecting $1.5 million to $2 million in NIL money to bring one of those into your program. And now Nebraska might be not only bringing one, they might be bringing two. Nebraska has been ultra aggressive this offseason, especially in terms of bringing in a quarterback that can not only be better, a lot of quarterbacks can be better from what Nebraska had last season, but maybe a quarterback that can take Nebraska to that next level that they haven't been to in a very long time. Nebraska visited Will Howard. They talked with Cam Ward, who's the talk of the town right now in the quarterback transfer portal market. Also talked to Blake Shapen, who went from Baylor to Mississippi State. How about Sam Leavitt, who went from Michigan State to Arizona State? But the big one right now, Nebraska is currently crystal balled. Multiple services have Kyle McCord ending up in Lincoln, Nebraska. Yes, that Kyle McCord that nearly led Ohio State 37 yards away from leading the Buckeyes to an undefeated season and knocking off Michigan. Big Ten title, college football playoff were in the grasp for Kyle McCord. That's the guy that could be quarterbacking the Nebraska Cornhuskers next season. And it doesn't start. Their aggressiveness this offseason and in the transfer portal doesn't stop at the quarterback position. How about Kyle McCord's teammate also on campus as we speak? Another 5-star that came out of high school in Julian Fleming, one of those great wide receivers that were recruited by Ryan Day, Brian Hartline, and the Ohio State Buckeyes. And then a guy with some family connections. Not that guy. We'll get to him in just a minute. But Princely Uman Mielen also has been rumored as a possible destination. He's in the portal after having a really good 2023 at Florida, 7 sacks and 11.5 tackles for loss. Nebraska's swinging big all over the place. These are guys that when they came out of high school a couple of years ago, Nebraska never would have been mentioned seriously to get these guys. But Matt Rule and this coaching staff is swinging big in the transfer portal because they have to. The landscape not only of college football, but the Big Ten is changing drastically in 2024. The Big Ten West is no longer. The Huskers played 6 of their 9 conference games against the Illinois, the Iowas, the Minnesotas, the Northwesterns, the Purdues, and the Wisconsins of the world instead of playing the Ohio States, the Penn States, the Michigans, and the Michigan States of the world on a semi-regular basis. Oh, and then you just throw in a Washington team undefeated in the college football playoff. They went 10-2 the year before. You throw in an Oregon team that's recruiting as good as anybody in the Big Ten right now, that's coming off an 11-win season, and you've got a USC team that is set to really improve with one of the best offensive minds in college football. If you want to be successful in the Big Ten, if Matt Rule wants to do what he wants to do, if Trev Alberts wants to achieve the type of success they want, and of course those Nebraska fans with their high expectations, if they want to achieve what they set out to in Big Red Nation, you need to swing big. You need to do what the Nebraska Cornhuskers are doing right now. Because if you kind of stay in your box of recruiting 3 stars, recruiting 4 stars, and developing them and staying within that mindset, you're going to be going 6-6. You might be going 7-5. Maybe if everything clicks and all the balls bounce your way, maybe you'll just go 8-4. But if you want to take it to the next step in this Big Ten with Oregon, Washington, USC, Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan at the top of this conference, You need to swing the same type of bat that those programs are swinging. And right now, Nebraska is certainly swinging that lumber here so far this offseason. Now, swinging with the big boys doesn't automatically mean you're going to hit with the big boys. Shohei Ohtani, everybody's talking about him, right? The best player in baseball, just signed the biggest contract in pro sports. Even he doesn't connect half the time. He swings with the big boys, but he doesn't hit and connect half the time. If you swing and if you hit 300 in the major leagues, it's a whole lot better than swinging and hitting 300 in AAA, where they've maybe been living in the Scott Frost era, where they'd maybe been living in the Mike Riley era. Heck, you could even say where they were maybe living in the Bo Pelini era. In this era, in the Matt Rule era, you need to swing big. You're not going to hit every single one. But if you keep swinging, you keep on stepping up to the plate, you're eventually going to hit something. And when you hit it, things are going to flip. Oh, as long as we're talking about flipping, that's where a second big bat really comes into play for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Not just transfer portal, but high school recruiting as well. And that's where we got to talk about what's happening right now with Dylan Raiola. It was reported on Monday by many services. Of course, you've got 24/7 Sports Director of Recruiting, Steve Wiltfong, crystal balling a commit flip from Georgia to Nebraska for Nebraska legacy and the number one recruit in the country, Dylan Raiola. Now, apparently some things have changed at Georgia with Carson Beck possibly coming back, and that's what's going on down there in Athens. But according to Sean Callahan at On3, Nebraska never stopped recruiting Dylan Raiola. They were always there even after he went from Ohio State decommitted and then committed to Georgia last offseason. The Huskers were always there. And in today's day and age of recruiting, if you want to land and if you want to swing big and you want to hit big, even when a kid's committed, you need to keep recruiting. You thought it was 24/7, 365 before. Now it's even more with the days of decommits and commit flips and, of course, the transfer portal as well. We know how big this would be for Nebraska. I touched on this last offseason that if a guy like Dylan Raiola, like Nebraska's not known for having five-star talent, more or less five-star quarterbacks. They're not a quarterback factory. When it comes to throwing the football, who are some of the best quarterbacks that you've seen throwing the football lately at Nebraska? You know? Adrian Martinez, Taylor Martinez, God bless them, but they were more runners than anything. It hasn't been great in terms of pure passers at Nebraska. Guys like Kyle McCord, guys like Dylan Raiola, are they the best since guys like Zach Lee and Zach Taylor? That's sure up for debate in Husker country. It sure has been a while since you've had as good of pure passers as you might have with Kyle McCord and Dylan Raiola in town in Lincoln, Nebraska. Now, a big part why Nebraska is having success, potential success, I should say, in the transfer portal and potential success on the recruiting trail is their NIL collective. I did some digging, and Nebraska has the 1890 initiative. That's their NIL collective. It is well renowned across college athletics as one of the best collectives in the Big Ten Conference. And Matt Davison does a really great job. And I stumbled upon this article by Pete Nakos. He's been all over the transfer portal at On3. He wrote this in late June as it pertained when he was kind of ranking the top 20 NIL collectives. And this also pertains to the recruitment at the time of Dylan Raiola. Let's dive into it. Here's what he had to say in the June 29th article. Quote, whenever industry sources talk about the NIL landscape in the Big Ten, Nebraska is one of the first collectives brought up. 5-star plus quarterback Dylan Raiola committed to Georgia last month. This was talking in June. A Nebraska legacy. His father played for the Huskers, and his uncle is currently Nebraska's offensive line coach. This is where things get big. Multiple sources have indicated to On3 that if NIL had been a major factor in his decision, he would be a Nebraska commit. NIL is a big reason why people are on flip watch right now and why people are talking about Nebraska's transfer portal aggressiveness the way they are right now. In today's day and age, if you have support, if you have backing, if you have a great NIL collective, you can win. And Nebraska has all three of those right now. If McCord and Raiola make their way to Lincoln, Nebraska, heads are going to turn. My head's going to turn, your head's going to turn, but most importantly, recruits and players' heads are going to turn to Lincoln, Nebraska as a possible destination that they could play at. I want to finish with this. Nebraska being good. That's always something, they came into the conference and they were pretty good under Bo Pelini. But ever since Bo Pelini, they've kind of been that missed opportunity within the Big Ten. They have a program with a rich history, with a large and extremely passionate fan base, but they haven't been able to get it to click. Mike Riley, Scott Frost, it hasn't come together. Nebraska being good and Nebraska being able to attract this type of talent is a great thing for the Big Ten. It's a great thing for a brand that is down to come back up, to increase the depth of the Big Ten. I feel pretty strongly about the Big Ten at the top with Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Oregon, and USC. But now you add in a program, if Washington is able to stay at their level, if Nebraska is able to rise up into that thing, Michigan State, I've talked about them, how I feel strongly about what Jonathan Smith is doing over there. Having those programs rise up and be ultra competitive and be aggressive like this and show that they can be in the same room as some of the powers in college football only strengthens the Big Ten as a brand. Having that Nebraska brand be good is very important to the depth of the Big Ten Conference going forward. Husker fans, I know it's been a lot. I know you're not used to this, but this could be the start of something special in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.